So I'm a young guy in the south of Sweden, trying to explore more about where we look when we are driving. So my background going into this quest is due to 12 years of driver training in different kind of situations. It can be in traffic, or it can be in an enclosed environment, or in a sports car educational sort of setting. Meeting a lot of different types of drivers, inexperienced and experienced, race car drivers, rally drivers, or even a person who hasn't got their driver's license yet. So that's my background into this. In my past, I've been working with big car manufacturers in sales. So and also implementing used car certification system. So bit more administration before, but I really like to be inside of a car, so to speak. So
I think that pretty much sets the tone. And what I'm more fascinated about is what gets you energized. So when you're sitting in the car with someone, what is it that energizes you in what it is you do?
Yes. So the thing that makes me most energized is definitely having a driver go from an inexperienced mode to an experienced mode. Hopefully, we can together with Tobii and the glasses get a glance of what the driver is doing behind the wheel in terms of making decisions with gaze, and that makes us as an instructor have a lot more confidence in what we try to do and explain. Most often we think that an inexperienced driver is looking at different things, and up to now we have been, let's say, guessing, but in a qualified way. But at the moment, this is very interesting to get more of an evidential or evidence of what the participant is looking at. And that makes me really energized, to say the least. Yeah.
And then just taking a step back, because I want to get into more about this project. It sounds super exciting. And I've seen some of the recordings from that project. So that's why I want to get talking about it. But maybe just as a step back, why do you want to go? Why is it important for you to train someone or have the training of someone happen more quickly?
So why is it important to be efficient in training? Or I have a lot of customers within blue lights, so police, customs, fire department, ambulance, and so on. And they often have a very narrow time together with us in the car. So to speed up the process of understanding what the participant is looking at is very important, especially for those guys, because they are traveling faster than everybody else in traffic. So they need to make better planning. They need to make better decisions. They also need to fantasize a little bit about what other drivers will do in the environment, so driving environment. The speed of learning in this case might be higher when we understand where the participant is looking. So, for instance, if we have an enclosed environment, you have a police officer during training. They might have 4 different settings in a day, and perhaps have 5 or 6 repetitions of every step. And if we can understand more of every part of those settings, that's very efficient in terms of reflecting back and looking at the participant afterwards.
And what has been some of your challenges before? So when you've trained these police officers, emergency personnel, whoever you've worked on coaching and training, what have you really struggled with in that environment that that made the training inefficient?
So what could make it inefficient in a day for those kinds of customers is often we see that the big issue would be that if the instructor, whoever it might be, is not connecting with the participant to a certain level, that is definitely challenging for the participant to learn what they should in that time. So in relation to that, so if we can build the instructor's knowledge of what the participant is looking at and making decisions of, and handling the car in relation to that, that is a fantastic way to up the level of the instructor, so that they can engage more with the participant in this case. So make it more interesting for the participant and make it also more interesting for the instructor so that they can connect better. It's very important.
All right, so let's talk about the new project, or this project that you've been on and this journey you've been on with Tobii's glasses. So you got the glasses. What did you start discovering, and where did you start discovering this? So tell me a bit of that early journey that you went on, and what was revealed to you.
The thought of looking further into a tool to prove where the participant is looking began, I think, 3-4 years ago. We were discussing this in our team, looking for different solutions, trying manually to put up objects that we can refer to when we do trainings and so on. And so we tried to, about a year ago, looking in even further to more high-tech sort of tool. And the glasses were actually referred to after one of my colleagues had encountered that into a store where they were looking at different things inside of the store, and tried to copy that in terms of, okay, so let's do that in the driving environment. That must be at least telling us something. And it certainly has. I think the main objective from the tests have been to try to prove if what we were thinking had been correct. So, for instance, if we see some kind of different driving maneuvers in certain ways, was that related to where the participant is looking, or is it something else? And we can definitely think so far that I can't say that we have proven it, but I can definitely say that there is some relation. The process so far has been that we have put up a little bit of a tests, different types of tests, both in traffic and in enclosed environments. The functionality of the glasses is normal, I guess. I think that the participant doesn't really realize a lot of what is happening. So I think it's quite easy to use. So they put on the glasses, we start the recording, we go out and do the tests and try to evaluate them afterwards. It has been very interesting to look at these recordings to see if there is a relation between where they look and what kind of decisions they make. when driving, things happen so quickly. You really don't realize it, how many decisions we make every second. So the glasses have been very efficient in us looking into what kind of decisions we can think that the participant is making. And it's been very interesting for the participant to view the recordings as well, as they can then go back in their memory to think and look what they could have been doing differently if they were to go into the same situation again.
And talking about that, so what have they revealed to you? So when you're replaying back that video to them and they're seeing what they're seeing, what have they revealed to you? What are you starting to notice from this project?
So what are the participants telling us from viewing the recordings? Well, many very interesting discussions. So as a third party looking at a video with the gaze, I can imagine what type of decision or thinking they might do, and decision they might be taking, and sometimes the discussion appears to be that was not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about this instead. That makes it possible to maybe have a little bit of a deeper discussion of what is happening behind the wheel. So that has been one thing that I can appreciate a lot of with this. The reflection that goes together with driving technique and where the participant is looking is also really good, because we can relate to the same type of visual environment. So for instance, if you have an obstacle appearing, the participant is looking at the obstacle and not perhaps on the solution where they need to go or maneuver the car. We can talk about that in a very clear way. The best part is, of course, that if I think that the participant is looking when we're both in the car, I'm as an instructor, the participant is driving. With experience, I can almost always guess where they are looking, but sometimes that's not correct. So in that case, it's better to just when using the glasses, it's like, okay, so I would imagine that you were looking at this place when you were driving, and the participant, no, that's not where I was looking. Okay, fine, let's just move on. A driver is never better than their next corner, as we say. So it doesn't matter what has happened. We'll look into what is coming next, and then view the recording afterwards. And sometimes it has been so. You remember this situation? I guessed that you were looking at this place, and then we step forward into that situation. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes the participant is right, but it makes it very. It makes a good discussion. It makes the level of discussion higher, or it makes it more interesting for both parties, I think.
Earlier you spoke about the fact that you can see, you can't prove it yet, but you can start seeing that something is happening. So what are you seeing that's happening in this environment? So you're coaching and you're training and you're instructing drivers, but what are you noticing is different the next time they're doing it after I'm not sure if you're showing them the video and then they're going again, or what's happening, but tell me a bit of that journey.
Yeah. So at this stage, we've been testing, right? So we haven't set up a certain way to do this, which in some cases might be the most beneficial way of using the glasses for us, because it's on an individual basis. So if you and I, Stefano, were to drive and I can coach your driving technique and where you look at a certain time and space, and then view the video. And then if we were to go out, so for instance, in a closed environment, we can set up the same situation. Then what we have seen so far is that the participant is definitely making a change, and just by being aware of where they are looking, right? So the biggest difference from before to after is that where you look is such a fundamental way of driving. So if you're aware of where you look, you might definitely say that you're a better driver afterwards. So typically we fall back into bad habits. We drive the car perhaps every day, perhaps even the same streets and so on. It's like past week I haven't had a single car going this way, so that's not a problem. And then one day there is a car there, and you need to avoid it or something like that. So we definitely need to enlight the all drivers to be more engaged in looking and making decisions thereafter. As you might know, Stefano, you have all different kinds of helping systems in the car. And one of the big issues for us that we can see is that the more automation that goes into the car, the less the driver focuses on driving. But in an active driving environment, where for blue light personnel or for sports car driver or track day driver and so on, it's really interesting to try to coach them in just a fundamental way of where they are looking. Makes a big difference.
You started speaking about especially when things become automated inside the vehicle. What is the risk then in terms of if we have more automation inside that vehicle? What would be that risk? Because one would say I could assist those professionals in that environment, but now if I'm taking away some aspects by automating it, what risk does that present to the professionals? And when I mean professionals, race car drivers, a police officer, or somebody like that.
Yeah, well, so if you take a typical race car, they don't have any like ABS or ESP systems. They definitely do not have automatic cruise control. You don't have parking help. You don't have anything related to that. You might have tire pressure monitoring system. So just to relate to a race car driver, if you engage in ABS systems with a race car, you filter the information from the car to the driver, and that just expands more and more and more. So you have assisted steering, so servo steering, that dulls the feeling into the driver's hands. So what I'm saying is that there is from 30 years ago till now, we have so much filtering from or within the car. It can be very well insulated. An electric car, you can't hear anything. Or of course you can hear anything. It's very quiet, which means that you start to dull a little bit about the sensation of speed. In relation to that, let's say that there's a speed 70 kilometer an hour speed limit, and you go 80 kilometers an hour because it seems so comfortable. It's no problem. In a case of an emergency, the difference between 70 kilometers an hour and 80 is dramatic, and making things more comfortable, less engaging, and like more filtered. We lack more and more the relation of the consequence. What happens when we, for instance, have an accident? So the level of inertia or energy traveling in a modern car is so high that it's very important to keep focus. So if you just look at the phone for a couple of seconds, you've been traveling so many meters, something pops up, that's really dangerous. So I mean, then everything needs to be optimized for the driver to make all of the decisions. So if the car in some way interferes with the decisions that the driver is making, they lose the sensation of that they are being in control, which is not good. The decision making is often carried through the vision, of course. I'm heading into this corner. I need to brake at some point. I need to plan my entry. I need to plan the apex. I need to plan exit and so on. And then they get sensations from their body, hands, feet, the car moving. And all of this needs to be calculated inside the mind. So in relation to where you look, you have to calculate all of these things and then make a decision what to do. And if you look, for instance, too close to the car, you have too little time to make decisions. So this makes it very powerful with the glasses to see, okay, so if I look 1 second ahead of where the car is, or 2 seconds ahead, or 3 seconds ahead, I can make cognitive progress in if I look further away, make the body tell me how and where I am in relation to everything else on the track. I can make more steady decisions. So, for instance, if I have 2 seconds response time to what I need to do, I will probably calculate that better than if I have 1 second. So the glasses are fantastic in this case.
I mean, you speak about decision making. So how did you measure that, or let me put it this way, how did you understand it from the person that you were trying to coach or instruct? How did you understand decision making before?
How did I understand decision making from the driver before as an instructor? So many hours of trying to get a sense of feel of where they place the car at a certain time. So for instance, if we do a brake evasive maneuver, after a couple of thousands of looking at people doing this kind of training, we can see that it's common that you brake too early, or you try to turn the wheel a lot too much. The car ends up in a position which is not logical in relation to where the goal is. And all of these things sort of relate to, okay, so if I'm looking at the obstacle, for instance, if I try to avoid it and it's just ahead of the car, I will probably try to turn the steering wheel too much. So try to avoid. And when I then try to go back to a safe place, that's not possible because you have tried to avoid too long. So if you instead try to visualize that going into a situation, you have a solution and you have an obstacle, you would be better off viewing the solution and try to make decisions around the obstacle, not looking at it more than just like very, very quickly, which makes a more real life situation you will be better off, definitely. So before, we have been looking at these kind of symptoms. So it can be a position of the car, turning the steering wheel a certain way, the braking technique they use, and then relate to that. So, okay, if we try to change where you look, will you do it differently? And then we try to make it really apparent. Okay, so this is where you should look with a big cone or something like that. And a lot of the other things or symptoms go away just by viewing the goal instead of the obstacle. That can be philosophized, if that's even a word. But I mean, you can definitely think of everyday situations. If you look at the obstacle, you're probably going to hit it more than going to have a solution for it.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, the transition and the area you're exploring now is that you're moving into a space where you can actually see. So previously you couldn't see what someone else was paying attention to, whereas now you're actually seeing how early on they're making that decision, or when they sort of are activating that moment of making a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So good explanation, I say.
Okay. Well, then you've done a great job in making it easy for me to understand. So thank you.
So I think that some when we have in some of these tests, we have really trying to go very slow in slow motion with the recording afterwards, and we can sometimes when we ask the participant, or when I've been testing myself, really see how quickly the response time from looking to action can be. And one other thing that the glasses gives us is head movement. So we can see, for instance, if the participant is moving his head or in an illogical way or an excessive way, there is symptoms that makes the decision making slower. So what you would like a driver to do is use more eye movement than head movement, if that makes sense. So that's also one thing that we're trying to look into.
Maybe out of curiosity, why do you think people use their head a lot more?
Mostly due to this is a deep question to answer. It has a lot of relation to even fundamentals like seating position. So if you're not correctly seated, you don't get the support from the backrest, and then you try to counteract G-forces with your head. So that's one thing. The most other common thing that I've seen so far is uncertainty. So if, for instance, you go a slow kind of maneuver, it's not that apparent. If you go under 50 kilometers an hour, then it's not relevant, because then mostly you're traveling straight ahead. But so if you go slow, uncertain drivers often double check, which means that decision making is very slow. So if you have an experienced driver, they know, for instance, what mirror to use. They can place the car efficiently and certainly. So it's not, I need to double check my mirror to see that I'm in the correct position. I know I'm in the correct position. So uncertainty of placement is one of the key ingredients in head movement, what we can see so far.
All right. So maybe as we start wrapping up this conversation, where are you going next with, or what is the next thing you're going to start embarking on, or where to from here, in terms of whether that's with the Tobii glasses or with your current work?
So where are we heading? I think that we are looking into Pandora's box. I don't know if that's a correct phrase, but I think there are many interesting situations that we can use the glasses to get a better feel of, better proof of where participants are looking. So we need volume of recordings to analyze. We need volumes of participants, of course. Mainly, we're focused on blue light personnel due to the active status that they need to have behind the steering wheel, which is and their need of better planning and better decision making than others. We're also looking into different areas which is not related to a car driver. So we're looking into a study with pilot training. So we hope that we can see some relation between different types of vehicles. So this might be applicable for pilots. It can be applicable for car drivers. We're also looking into motorcyclists. So motorcyclists for blue lights, for instance, the police, is also interesting to see. We have a thinking that they might be planning better than the average car driver due to the slow maneuverability of a motorcycle. Also the danger. So we're looking into that. So there are three main things. So we need some volume of the recordings. We need to look into different aspects. So pilot training, and then motorcyclists. That's what we're looking into the near future.
And what's going to help you with what are you looking? So when you get the volume of recordings, or you have the volume of data, what is missing for you right now when that would make it easy for you to come to your conclusion that you're looking for?
I think what might be an obstacle for all of us, financing, which is quite interesting. So now we're, in terms of the relation with the pilot training, we're looking into governmental financing, which we will apply for this autumn. So together with them, we'll look into that further. And then, of course, we need analysts support. So, for instance, with you at Tobii, you have a lot of knowledge doing what you're doing. So hopefully we can go further into to dig into all of the data that we collect. So going further or going further into our project, I think that we need to make sure that we have the official contracts with blue light environments, that we can make sure that whatever comes out of our study is added to their trainings and their plans of educating. I think if the end result is exactly as I can imagine, I'm not sure. But however, I know that for every time we record someone, we get more data, we get more information. So we get more reflections afterwards.
What you shared has been really valuable so far. Maybe just as a point in closing, what would you say to others who are aspiring instructors, coaches, and so on? What would you say to them that you've learned from over the years, and even the way that you have now come to understand there's new technology that can support you? What would you recommend to them? Or what would you say to them based on your experience?
So advices or perhaps findings so far. So there are very good driving instructors all over the world. with knowledge of these symptoms that we call them sometimes, that we can acknowledge, for instance, that the driver is not making the right decision at the right time. And with experience from this, sometimes it needs a little bit of proof. So that's the biggest addition of knowledge that we can get from using the glasses, both in a testing environment and then in sort of, you can also use it, of course, in a sort of evaluating or assessment, is it? So if you were, for instance, trying to assess a certain point, a certain person's driving habits, this can be a very, very useful tool. I think that the biggest advantage of using the glasses from not using the glasses, when you have symptoms that you can reflect on and give feedback to the driver, and afterwards, when having the glasses as a tool, I think the biggest difference is that you can have a sort of objectified discussion. So it's not a matter of me saying or making the participant feel that I have the upper hand. It's more of a equal sort of discussion. So, okay, so now you're going into this situation, you're looking at this place, you end up going over here. What were your thoughts doing that when driving? And then you can have a good discussion. So it opens up a little bit of the instructor's problems, typically of sort of just making feedback from symptoms. Here we have somewhat of proof, so it makes it a lot easier. So I think that, yeah, it's a no-brainer that this is a very useful tool for all driver instructors. So definitely we'll see that be more of a best practice scenario, I think, in the coming years.
All right. Thank you, Philip. I mean, everything was fantastic. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I just want to thank you again for your time. I learned a lot about how you use the solution, so it really was enlightening for me, and it's good confirmation of how something so simple can really start answering big questions, like decision making. So that for me is really, really helpful to hear, and I know that others will benefit from that. And I just want to say thank you also to you.
Thank you, Stefano. It's been great. I'm really looking forward to going further into this project.